Hi, I'm Catherine Lang-Cline, president of Portfolio Creative, and this is the Secret Art of Business podcast. And today I have Jim Stephens joining me, and I'm super excited because I was looking at his LinkedIn post or his page, and we are very similar in that we both got degrees in very artsy things, him in journalism and me in fine arts, and then we ended up getting jobs into things that actually could generate more money. Not that you can't in journalism, but it is a little harder, or in fine arts. But yeah, you have a fantastic career just generally in marketing. And then you ended up now in something that is called International Center for Creativity. So Jim, tell us a little more about that.
First off, thanks for having me. This is an honor. I really appreciate the opportunity to get to chat with you and to get to talk about our favorite subject, which is creativity. So thanks for having me on board.
I'm just welcome. So what is it that you're up to now? What is this international world that you're involved in now?
Yeah, so the International Center for Creativity is part educational entity and part a working studio. So we started off. My business partner and I had sold a company. We had a marketing firm that we sold. And, you have those grand plans of, I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to write a book. And my wife's like, well, or you could get a job. And all the partners and entrepreneurs, we sat around and said, well, let's have some crazy Fridays and pitch each other ideas on fun things we could do. Because I'm a big believer in first who and then what. And so in the beginning, we had some chemistry between individuals, and we started talking about all the different things that maybe we could go into as entrepreneurs. And we, heaven help us that we'd have to go out and find jobs. So at one point we kept bringing each other ideas, and we had some absolutely horrible ideas. And that was one of it, was that we would pick each other apart and go, that's not going to work. This isn't going to work. But then we kind of stumbled on something our clients kept telling us, which they weren't really satisfied with the creative problem-solving abilities of kids coming out of design school. They said they were running to CAD and they were just running to production environments instead of being able to get down in the mud and fall in love with a problem and be curious enough to pick it apart. And we couldn't figure out why. We're like, yeah, but that's the point of design school. But what we found out is because there was such a huge migration at the time, we're talking about the early 2000s, that at the time everybody was running to CAD and they were running to desktop publishing. And I had heard a speaker say that desktop publishing had just opened up bad taste to the masses. And that struck a chord with me, right? And I thought about it for a little while, and I said, well, that's interesting. I wonder what they're missing. And then what we found out was artists weren't going into design because their perception of design was that they were going to sit in front of CAD all day. And we're like, well, this is a travesty. Design has to have artists. So we just kept getting hammered by our consulting clients that we were doing industrial design work for, brand launches and those sorts of things. And they kept telling us, you guys are really good at training and you're really good at explaining things. And, you're kind of this old school apprenticeship approach of learn by doing. You guys should start a design school. And we're like, we started laughing at the idea. Like, what do we know about that, right? We're not academics at our heart, but we love teaching. And then we thought, well, hang on, there's a disconnect here. So we started doing some investigation into it. And there was this providential opportunity, which I believe in. I believe in serendipity and providence and all those things that like our phones distract us from these days. Some people might call them chance meetings. Call it what you like. We had an opportunity to talk to a professor at Cedarville University, and I was poking him, going, "Hey Dan, what's going on over in the cornfield?" Because it's a small Christian college over in Cedarville.
And by the way, they are a fantastic school.
Wonderful school. Some
of the best designers come out of there.
Oh, incredible. Wonderful graphic design program, studio art program, and industrial design now. And he started using words like, we're looking for, new opportunities for creative majors. And I'm like, well, you need industrial design. Our clients have told us this is an opportunity. And he's like, well, is that something you guys are pursuing? And we were like, I guess we are. Yeah, let's talk about this. But here's all of the parameters on how it would have to happen. We want to build it from scratch. It's got to be industry driven. It has to be hands-on and experiential. It has to be market relevant. There has to be analog skills and, all of this stuff. And they were like, yeah, we can make this happen. And, long story long, we ended up going through this entire curricular process, and we accepted in our first junior class, because what we do is we teach the last 2 years of a 4-year fully accredited degree.
Oh, I love that.
So they get their gen eds, their design and art and studio prerequisites done on main campus, and then they're immersed in industrial design when they come to the International Center for Creativity.
And
so
you get the real opportunities too.
100%. We're like the teaching hospital to a nursing degree. This is where you come to get your practice.
I like that.
And we wanted to bring our clients into the classroom as guest lecturers and not just jurying work at the end, right? That's so easy. They come in and tell you everything you should have done differently. Well, how about you create the brief and then come in during milestone checks and tell them, hey, look, we'll worry about the academic measures. Why don't you tell them if this is professional grade or not? Would this cut it in industry? Are you tracking towards a hireable skill? And so lo and behold, we accepted our first juniors into the program in 2010. So we just had our 11th graduating class. We've had 209 graduates from the International Center for Creativity, and they are scattered all over the world. They're working at companies like Ford Motor Company in the innovative vehicle design, working at New Balance, at Bose, Logitech, at Hunter Fans, at Petco and Target. All of these companies doing product design, architectural space design, and transportation design. So we're so humbled that we were just the receptacle for this idea, that it was one of the things that needed to happen, and that our eyes and ears were open enough to receive it and then to steward it. And we feel like caretakers of the program, and we're driving and we're pushing, but at the end we're caretaking. And
okay, Jim, I'm going to stop you for a second because because you have said a lot that I want people to really kind of understand. And one is that, one, you're super humble, which creative people usually are, because it's a little bit of our heart on our sleeve when we create something. And I mean, you have created this school, and it sounds like it's really awesome. And why you just say, we're just kind of taking care of it. No, you invented it. So I'm going to give you total props for that. And just think of all the people that you've helped. And that's what kind of comes out of creative people reinventing themselves too, because like I said, we kind of get handed, and I'll use myself even as an example, I got a fine arts degree. It was technically all I could really kind of afford. And then I had to kind of make opportunities, or at least be aware of some of them. And this one kind of came up, and like a great creative person, left, right brain person, you've had a problem, you figured it out, and he made something awesome of it. And I that's the thing that I'm kind of seeing over and over with a lot of the guests on this podcast, is that it's about that reinvention, it's about opportunities, and it's about building them. So you didn't get here magically. I'm going to ask you now, when you were a kid, this is always my question. What did you do to stay creative, or what did you do for fun, or what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh man, I had a great childhood. I'm so thankful. I had parents that gave me a lot of latitude. I'd love to thank my Uncle Joe. My Uncle Joe worked at Westvaco Paper, and Uncle Joe used to send us packs of paper, blank paper, reams of it. And he got it from work. If they were overruns, or if it was stuff that, didn't pass quality control or whatever. And we called it Uncle Joe paper. But we sat and drew. Yes. And I have to tell you, if there was a blank sheet in the church bulletin, I knew I was going to make it through the service. Because as a kid, you come in and you're like, oh, wow, this is big church. It's not like church today. Kids are entertained and it's fun and it's a party. For us, it was like, sit down, you're going to sit through the whole sermon. But I got to draw, right? And I was always sketching. I was always drawing. My older brothers loved to draw. But like our favorite thing to do was to mash up all our toys, meaning like we would take the big refrigerator box and we would take the tin for the potato chips, and we'd start building these Rube Goldberg machines in our basement, with all of these chutes, and you could run a golf ball through them. I would cut up the paper towel tube and make my own Star Wars ship, right? I created my own stuff out of cardboard, and then I would use my Hot Wheels track and my girder and panel building set and my Lego. I never built like what was supposed to be built out of the kit. We always just freestyled it. And the greatest joy was building this huge thing and my parents letting us trash the family room in the basement and then getting done with it and then tearing it apart and doing it all over again. And then I would say I was really influenced by music. As much as I like to draw and build stuff, I loved music. I was always curious on what was I hearing? Like inside of this wall of sound that was coming at me, what were the instruments? What sound did they contribute? And I was fascinated. And I'm really dating myself when I talk about, we had a big stack of 33s on a turntable. You remember you put all of side A on a stack and it would play all the way through them, and then you took the whole stack and turned it over and listened to all the stuff. But I grew up in a house that listened to a lot of Americana music. We listened to John Denver and the Carpenters, and we listened to Skeeter Davis and Marty Robbins and Perry Como and James Taylor, and we lived at Simon and Garfunkel. We were listening to singer-songwriters playing acoustic music. But there was one record that kind of shook my world as a kid, and it's not something you would think a kid would respond to. But in the mid-'70s, I had a second cousin who was a lot older than us bring an album to us. It was a double album by the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and it was called Will the Circle Be Unbroken? And Will the Circle Be Unbroken was this organic, live studio capturing of all of these bluegrass artists, Vassar Clements and Doc Watson and the Carter family. It was really, if you're a fan of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's that kind of soundtrack, but it happened in the 70s. And that music blew my mind. As much as I liked rock music, and as much as every kid growing up likes pop music, there was something really visceral about that music, and it was visual to me. It painted landscapes. And so music influenced me as a kid, and I did that. I learned how to play guitar. I started there was always one laying around, and I started in guitar club when I was 12. And I still sing and play guitar now because it's just a wonderful other part of your brain.
That's going to be a follow-up question. But the one thing I want to mention, too, that, since you did bring up music, and, I tend to kind of gravitate towards that same way. I like all types of music, but my favorites are usually the ones that are storytelling. And all the bands that you named, they all were great at telling stories. And even sometimes when people say, "Oh, do you like country music too?" I was like, you know what? I like country music that tells a story. If it's got a nice beat, and there's like a beginning, almost like a beginning and an end, or there's like some sort of emotion in there of the story that somebody's talking about. I'm hooked, and I think that is where again that creativity just starts plugging in, and you're like, okay, I'm hearing it, because I will listen to like podcasts that tell stories or StoryCorps and This American Life and things like that, and hours of it on road trips and things like that, because it is that art of the story. And I'm sure a little bit of your journalism heart kind of gravitates to that too, because it's like there's nothing better than when someone has not only written something really good, but it has affected my emotion in some way too.
And it's theater of the mind,
Absolutely. And that helps people like you and I, stay creative and be stimulated. And then suddenly maybe an idea we might see I might start painting a picture because of something that I had heard in a song, or you might start writing something based on that, or that would help you with some of these students. So I am not going to discount like songwriting and music, and writing is all just so important. But you did talk about you play guitar. So you have created this amazing campus, for creative people, and, are helping so many people. But there is a lot still of, business that needs to be done with that. So how do you stay creative while doing that?
Well, I neglected to say earlier that, this is a partnership. And when we started it, there were three of us involved. Our third founding partner retired back in 2017. But my co-founder here, Tom Balliet, he's an industrial designer by education and by practice, and he is kind of this operations mind, and he's such a creative thinker because, like, even when it comes to business ops, he doesn't just take the off-the-shelf solution. It becomes but what's our version of it? And it's been really good for us to have. I've heard it said once that every company needs a German with a clipboard, right? And to keep organized. Now, Tom does have some German in his background, but he is one of the most creative operational people that I've ever met. So he loves doing the numbers, and he likes coming in and analyzing things differently than other people do.
Yeah, we need one of those people for sure.
Yeah, we absolutely do, and we complement each other in the sense that he's a super creative guy and has a lot of different skill sets than I do. And it's really interesting. He's really into healthcare. He's a licensed paramedic. He still practices. He rides on an ambulance occasionally. He works you might see him at Nationwide Arena helping you if you fall and hurt your ankle or something. But at the same time, he's in here helping students with design thinking and how to organize their projects and time management. And the design thinking process is like his love language. So we're really this fun kind of yin and yang that I always say I love Tom like a brother, but I actually get along with him better than I do my brother sometimes.
Maybe better.
So, it's family, right? But
yeah, and you're not the first person to have like this partner that kind of helps you do, and I look at it as, we get to be just smart enough to delegate. We know enough to be dangerous, but we're also smart enough to know how to delegate when it's not really our strength or favorite thing to do.
It's a great point. I noticed once, I heard an interview of all people, Bob Vila, who was kind of the father of the DIY movement.
Right.
And being the founder of This Old House out of Boston Public Television. And I heard Bob Vila talking. They're like, Bob, we don't see you picking up a hammer or running tools. And he goes, why would I do that? I have Norm Abrams sitting here. I know my limitations. And he said, I'm the voice of the viewer. I'm the person that's asking the question they can't because they're not here.
And I have no doubt that Bob could have done it. Bob could have definitely done the work, but he knew somebody and had somebody there who could do it so much better.
And he knew his limitations. And I think I was asked once a couple of years ago about this. If you remember when the whole the Grit book came out, that wonderful book by Angela Duckworth, it's so good. It's called Grit, about really hard work. And then I had an epiphany watching Christmas Vacation of all things, when Clark works so hard in trying to make the house work, the lights work, and they don't work when he plugs them in. And the daughter defends him, saying, "Come on, Daddy worked really hard." And one of the old snarky in-laws says, "So does a washing machine." And it hit me that hard work isn't really the key to entrepreneurship. It's actually self-awareness. I think you have to have a high degree of self-awareness of saying, hey, you know what? I do have something to contribute in these areas, but I need strength in these other areas. And I'm not going to think that I have the omnibus skill set. And I think self-awareness is a big chunk of business, that you have to be realistic. Isn't it painful, when you watch America's Got Talent or American Idol or whatever, and they put it on for shock value, some person that maybe shouldn't be there. Their friends kept telling them, like,
maybe it's to make everybody else look good. Who knows?
Right. But for me, it became a self-awareness enough to have those really good friends that say, hey, you know what? I'm not sure you're that good. You're really good at karaoke night, but I don't know. You're that person that tells you have something in your teeth. And that's so valuable in business and entrepreneurship. To know your limitations and then not use it as an excuse to get better in that area, but also realize that maybe I need help in that area. So business drags you down in so many ways because you get things thrown at you that you're not planning for. and
Oh,
you have to be
absolutely.
like Rocky. You
Absolutely.
have to be able to take a punch and
Absolutely.
still
Well, and
fight
I
back.
think though too, that's kind of again where people that are really exercising both sides of the brain are going to come out ahead, because it is that problem solving, but it is also thinking out of the box. People use the term all the time, a lot of things all the time, and what they're really just saying is you have to activate the whole thing in order to
Right.
get it's got to be fit. And just by testing high school kids on an ACT test doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be successful or not, because you've only tested one side of their head. you know and that's why it's great to not only know people like you that have done something with that challenge, if you will, and you're now kind of reaching back and you're helping other kids make that connection too, and how
Yeah.
they can be creative and make this into something that is of value. Because
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sold that people take creative people seriously when it comes to their value, because you think of people that are like dancers and actors even, they always have to have a side hustle in order to have a living wage.
Yeah.
And there's a long time that a lot of creative people didn't get enough credit, where everybody just wanted a logo design for $50. And it's like, well, you love doing it, so why don't you just do it for $50? They're like, because this is my
Right.
job. So there's always a little bit of that struggle. What do you want people to know
That's
most
right.
about what you do now? What is next for the International Center for Creativity, or what is one thing that and I'm going to put all your information in the podcasts and all the links so they can
Sure.
contact you or find out more about this. But what is the one thing that you would like people to know about this, or two things? It doesn't have to be one
Really,
thing.
our job. Yeah, sure, sure. Uh, we feel like our mission is to inspire creative confidence, and that everybody has it. It's not an elitist thing.
Mm-hmm.
Creativity is just it's a discipline, and it's listening to the right voices and noticing things that other people miss. That's really what creativity is connecting dots that other people miss. So for our undergrad degree, if people out there know young people that are kind of outliers, right? We look at ourselves as the island of misfit toys. These are kids that are just not served by traditional school and testing, but they might be good with other things. They're good with their hands.
Yes.
They like to be involved in more than one thing. They like photography and sports and music and architecture. Well, there's a degree for them, and it's industrial design. Because the
Mm-hmm.
more you know about the world around you, the better designer you can become, because you can identify problems worth solving. So if you know a young person that's looking for careers in creativity, even if they don't end up at our school, we want them to know that there are careers in creativity. There are ways to use imagination as a career, because just as a side note, once again, LinkedIn has listed creative problem solving as the number one soft skill. Every year, hard skills come and go. One year it's
Mm-hmm.
cybersecurity, and then it's coding, and then it's whatever it may be. But creative problem solving is in every industry. We get to work with, of
Absolutely.
all things, the pharmacy school at Cedarville. They have a wonderful pharmacy school. They're nationally ranked. It's a relatively new program. But they have an innovation department that we've partnered with to teach design thinking principles to some of the most concrete sequential thinkers you'll ever meet, right? That go into this business. But think about what happened to pharmacies during COVID, right? They had to totally get transformed, and they've never been the same, and nor will they be the same. Every industry needs creative problem solving. So, if you know a young person that's looking for careers in creativity, we would love to help, even if it's not industrial design,
I
just to
love
get them
that.
pointed. Then we
Well,
also
you
have
know
some
what, too?
master's
We went on
programs.
a little bit of a tangent. You didn't say what you do now to stay creative.
Right. Well, I've got the same issue that a lot of creative people do. I have this long list of things that I love to do. I'm also really into cars. So I've wanted to start a podcast about classic cars. So I think and it really may end up not even being about classic cars, but more just about the people who love them. So that's something that I'd love to get involved in. I love to play music and to record and to inspire my own kids to pursue music. and I've been toying with doing a little bit more writing. I know a publisher here in town that is such a creative person, and he's helped so many people write books. I've just never wanted to be the guy that's like, here I am, buy my book. I don't feel like I'm that guy. But we've had a bunch of people say, have you thought about putting down some of your thoughts about things that kill creativity, and how can you solve that? And that's a creative project that we've got simmering on a back burner as well.
I had heard that if you just start writing a bunch of blogs, it eventually turns into a book. So maybe that's where you start.
It's a great idea.
Funny that you brought up classic cars, because I also like classic cars. I don't know if I would ever own one, but I just think they're really pretty to look at. So maybe it's still just a visual thing for people like us too. It's just, because people just thought differently about how they designed a car versus, because I look at, when I look for a car, first I got to look for what are the lines on the car. Do I like the lines on the car? And then I'll start looking at the research as far as if it's an actually a good car.
Well, there's that, right? There's collecting cars, and then there's wanting to actually drive them. And they're two different things. So one just requires storage and a drip pan under it.
Oh my gosh,
the other one actually requires the care and feeding of a toddler. You have to just... That's a dangerous hobby for sure. Yeah, so...
All right, well, awesome,
also,
Jim.
so we have two
I'm just going to wrap it up and let's get something else.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was just going to add that we have two master's programs. One's a concentration in innovation and entrepreneurship inside of Cedarville's MBA program, and we have a standalone master's of innovation as well. They're all 100% online, and it helps you tap into just new ways of thinking. And then we're also launching micro-credentials in like design thinking and creative problem solving for people that want to kind of add that to their toolkit. So those are some projects that recently launched.
That is so great, and I love that you have that accessible to people, because if they, especially since it's online and stuff too, they don't have to leave their house. They can still learn this and better themselves, and then seek more opportunities based on what you've taught them. But thank you again, Jim. I'm going to have all your information in the links. And if people want to know more about what he's all up to, I mean, definitely, follow him on LinkedIn, or, start checking in to the International Center for Creativity. I think it is an amazing program. And like I said, don't be so humble. You should be very proud of yourself. I think this is a really, really awesome thing that you've created, and it's going to help a lot of people. So thank you for joining me, and thank you for doing that.
Catherine, thanks so much. This has been a blast. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Same.